There's a difference between being smart and being deep, and most people confuse the two. Smart gets you fast answers. Deep gets you the right question in the first place. If you've ever sat in a conversation while everyone else moved on, still chewing on something that was said 3 topics ago, you already know what I'm talking about. So today we're going through 7 signs your brain is genuinely wired for deep thinking. Not the IQ test kind of smart, the kind that actually changes how you experience the world. This isn't really about intelligence in the way we usually measure it. Standardized tests reward speed and pattern recognition under time pressure. Deep thinking often works against the clock entirely, sometimes refusing to produce an answer until it's actually ready, no matter how long that takes. Which means a lot of genuinely deep thinkers grew up being told they were slow, or that they overthought everything, when really their mind was just operating on a different schedule than the one school was built around. Let's start with sign 1. You get stuck on questions other people consider settled. Why do we actually value the things we value? What does it really mean to know something versus just believe it? Most people brush past these questions because they're inconvenient. They don't have clean answers, and clean answers are comfortable. Deep thinkers don't get that comfort. The question lodges itself somewhere and won't let go until it's been turned over from every angle, even when there's no deadline forcing the exploration. Sign 2. And this one trips a lot of people up because it looks like indecision from the outside. You can see the merit in opposing arguments at the same time.
Not because you're wishy-washy, but because you genuinely understand why someone could reasonably land on either side of a complicated issue. This is actually a documented cognitive trait, sometimes called integrative complexity, the capacity to hold multiple competing frameworks in mind without collapsing them into a single, simplified take. It's mentally expensive. It's also the foundation of almost every genuinely original idea anyone has ever had. Here's something that might land a little uncomfortably. Sign 3. You find small talk almost physically draining. Not because you dislike people, often the opposite. You care a lot about connection. It's that surface-level conversation asks your brain to operate at a level it's not built to idle at comfortably. Weather, plans for the weekend, the usual scripts. They don't give your mind anything to actually do. Deep thinkers often describe small talk like running an engine in neutral for too long. Technically fine, but something in you knows it's not what the engine is for. Sign 4. You remember conversations by their meaning rather than their exact words. Most people can tell you roughly what was said. Deep thinkers tend to retain the architecture underneath it, what someone was really getting at, the assumption baked into their argument, the part of their logic that didn't quite hold up. This is because deep thinking isn't really about processing more information. It's about processing information differently, extracting structure and implication rather than just storing the surface content. Let's pause for a second, because here's a pattern interrupt worth sitting with. Think about the last book, movie, or conversation that actually stuck with you for days afterward. Now ask yourself honestly, was it because of what happened, or because of what it made you realize? Sign 5. And this one's counterintuitive. You often feel like you understand things less the more you learn about them. This sounds backwards, but it's actually a hallmark of genuine depth. Surface knowledge feels simple because you haven't yet seen the complexity underneath it. The deeper you go into any subject, the more nuance, exception, and uncertainty you uncover. This is sometimes called the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse. The more genuine expertise someone builds, the more aware they become of what they still don't know. Confidence actually tends to dip as real understanding increases, which is the opposite of how most people assume expertise works. Sign 6. You connect ideas across completely unrelated fields without even trying. A concept from biology suddenly explains something about relationships. A principle from economics maps perfectly onto a personal decision you're wrestling with. This isn't random. Deep thinkers tend to store information not in neat, separate categories, but in a kind of interconnected web where similar structures get linked regardless of which subject they originally came from. Psychologists call this associative thinking, and it's strongly correlated with both creativity and what researchers describe as fluid intelligence, the ability to reason and solve novel problems independent of prior knowledge. And sign 7, the one that ties everything together. You'd rather sit with an unresolved question than accept a shallow answer just to feel settled. Most people experience uncertainty as something to eliminate as quickly as possible. Deep thinkers tolerate it, sometimes even prefer it, because they've learned that the fastest answer is rarely the truest one. This tolerance for ambiguity is one of the most consistently studied traits in psychological research on complex problem solving, and it shows up again and again in people who eventually produce genuinely original insights in any field. So here's what's actually tying all 7 of these together. None of them are really about raw processing speed or memorizing facts. They're about depth of engagement, a kind of mental persistence that refuses to let things go just because they're inconvenient, uncomfortable, or socially unusual. This isn't always a comfortable way to move through the world. Deep thinkers often feel slightly out of step in fast-paced environments built for quick takes and quicker reactions. There's also a cost worth naming honestly. This kind of mind can be exhausting to live inside of. The inability to accept easy answers means more time spent in uncertainty. The tendency to see multiple sides of everything can make decisions slower and occasionally more agonizing than they need to be. And the disinterest in small talk can, unfairly, come across as coldness or disengagement to people who haven't yet seen the depth underneath it. This is also why deep thinkers often gravitate toward a small handful of close relationships rather than a wide social circle. It's not about being antisocial. It's that surface-level connection genuinely doesn't satisfy the part of the mind that's hungry for depth, and maintaining many shallow connections at once takes energy that could otherwise go toward a few conversations that actually matter. People who think this way often describe feeling more recharged after one long, meandering conversation about something real than after an entire evening of casual networking. There's also a particular kind of loneliness that can come with this trait, one that's rarely talked about. It's not the loneliness of having no one around. It's the loneliness of being around people constantly and still feeling like the conversation never quite reaches the layer you're actually interested in. That gap between proximity and genuine connection is something a lot of deep thinkers learn to live with quietly, often assuming it's simply how relationships work for everyone, until they finally meet someone who thinks the same way and realize, for the first time, what it feels like when a conversation actually goes all the way down. But here's the thing worth holding on to. The discomfort of this kind of mind is also exactly where its value comes from. The questions that won't let you go are usually the ones worth asking. The unresolved tension you sit with longer than everyone else is often the exact space where real insight eventually shows up. Depth isn't efficient. It was never supposed to be. It's something closer to thoroughness, with the patience to actually finish the thought. If most of these sounded familiar, you're not overthinking, and you're not too much. You're just running a different kind of engine than the one built for quick, surface-level processing. Tell me in the comments which sign hit closest to home. I read every single one. And if you know someone who spent their whole life being called intense or too deep, send them this video. They might finally have language for it.